Today is Friday, September 9th, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Podcast.
Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember this is what we wanted. Remember this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike Shalau of Is Was Brewing. I'm here with your other co-host, Chris Quinn. Chris, how you doing?
So happy right now. So happy. I think it's my best fade-in ever. We're surgeless.
Yeah, we got a rare day game.
We have no surge protection right now.
No, we don't.
So, yeah, rare day game, Friday daytime episode. So, just beware. I mean, listeners of the show know what to expect at this point now.
Flawless fades.
Yes, flawless fades.
Scorching takes.
Mm-hmm. Yep, hot takes. The takes should be as hot as ever. But, but yeah, how have you been? What's up with you?
Good. I spent most of the day on the phone with the Illinois Department of Revenue solving a problem that I think is actually already solved, and they just don't know how to talk to each other.
Got it.
So that was fun.
Got it. You're talking, in the past to somebody about something that,
Right.
Yes.
Right. I'm talking about something to someone 2 days ago about something that happened 4 months ago that's not going to happen for another 3 months.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
It makes total sense.
Yeah.
But very rude of me. I haven't given the thanks yet. I mean, we should thank everyone for listening and for submitting all the letters lately, so we can do our grab bag mail episodes and stuff like that. Thanks to Lumpen Radio as well, and its fearless leader, Jamie Trecker. I'm very much indebted to them because we're going to be seeing them in a couple weeks for Swansea Day. They're going to be providing the vibes.
They do provide good vibes.
Yes. There are a few businesses in Chicago that I think really nail the vibes very well. Lumpen, I mean, they should. They're a radio
The buddy
station.
system.
Yeah. And then Dark Matter, I think, is
Very vibe
very
heavy.
vibe-centric, vibe-heavy. Not so much me or anything I'm associated with, so I
Got your own
brought
vibe.
both of them in for the event.
Yeah, you need a
They're in-
vibe injection.
Yeah. So I've kind of I farmed out the vibes
Yeah.
for this event.
Yeah, you gotta know what your strengths are.
Yeah, exactly. Vibes, not so much, but yeah. So you were talking to the not the IRS, but the Illinois Department of Revenue.
Yep.
Basically the same thing.
Worse, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Wait till the IRS gets involved.
They were very pleasant. It was just silos there where I'm talking to
Right.
3 different groups of people at different times. And none of them talk to each other. And we're not even allowed to see that. Perfect.
Great. Anything else new with you?
I was in Michigan over the weekend. My girlfriend's from Detroit, so went to saw her family. Mostly drank High Lifes. Her dad's a big High Life drinker, so we drank Garage High Lifes, which are a good.
It seems like there's a time and a place.
When in Rome, yeah.
That's definitely the place.
But yeah, when you're in a garage surrounded by old Valvoline cans, literally everywhere.
That's cool.
Yeah, then you drink High Lifes. So.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
How about you?
Boy, been busy. I've got a huge weekend coming up. We have so this past week I flew out to Atlanta and then drove back because
As one does.
Yes, as one does. There was a vehicle out there. As everyone knows, I was in a big car smash, so I was in the market for a new car. So I was out of it. Didn't have a chance to go to any breweries or anything like that, just in and out. But I did, so I didn't get any of those benefits, but I did get the benefits of coming back and being completely, out of sorts for half a week and stuff like that.
Of course.
And then we've got the CBS picnic is tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
And then Noah's going away party.
It's tonight. Yeah.
And then
He's
Swansea
not going
tickets.
that far, though. He's moving to Indiana.
I know, but it's a farewell.
Yeah. We'll never see you again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll be back. That's what everyone says. And then Swansea tickets go on sale tomorrow in the morning. We are getting exploded with questions, concerns.
Anger about having to be here physically. To
A
get
lot
the
of hate
tickets.
on Reddit, apparently.
I saw that on Reddit.
Oh, I haven't been
It's
on.
not that. I only saw a couple of comments, and it's just people like, man, I have to drive in on my day off. It's like, yeah.
Yeah. I had someone complain, or I heard about someone complaining, like, now I have to buy a plane ticket to get tickets and then buy a plane ticket to come back for the event. I didn't say anything, but I was like, you don't have to. You can go wherever you want. Like,
right. We're not making you do anything.
No, there's multiple locations.
Right.
I mean, go out to Garden Path in Washington. I hear it's great this time of year.
Right.
We won't miss you. Alex, you're causing a scene, okay? So please, we have to start the whole show over now. No,
but we should get into it.
Yeah, we should.
Got a good show today.
Yes, it's been 6 minutes, which is a good. I said 5, but we'll go 6. So
He's leaving.
yeah, he's out. No, so we have a special guest. We have Marco Passarella of St. Bernardus. How are you, Marcos?
Good.
And so we have a tradition. First-time guests introduce themselves as far as who they are and how you relate to the beer industry. So why don't you just take it away for a little bit?
All right. So my name is Marco Passarella. I am from Belgium. I live in Belgium, and I'm the sales manager of brewery St. Bernardus in Watu. And I travel to the US about 4 times a year in normal years. There haven't been any normal years recently. So this is my my 3rd trip this year. And I'll do another one in December to come back and do App 12 day.
Cool.
So 12.
Right.
And on this trip, I came to Chicago.
Cool.
And we're doing this here. And
so we were here years ago, right? It's been a bit.
Yeah, I was here in 2017 in October.
Wow.
I know because I took a picture of this really nice wall.
Of the wall, the Fox.
The Fox
We're in the Fox room right now. Yeah, we're not even in Studio BT. You can tell it's a day game.
Yeah, right.
Because there isn't like a Dungeons and Dragons club back in here.
No dart team throwing darts at the door.
Yes, that's true.
So yeah, I've been working at the brewery for almost 20 years now.
Wow.
And I really like my job, so I'll keep on doing it.
Very cool.
Great.
Very cool. Well, thanks for coming by. I figured we could talk a little bit about obviously your beers specifically, which I'm hoping after 20 years you can pretty much answer any questions. Yeah, hopefully. I'd hope so. But then also maybe just generally about Belgian beer, Abbey / Trappist ale, those styles of beer. A little bit of the history of it, and then maybe what the current market is looking like, because I mean, I know here in America stuff is pretty crazy right now. So
Wild.
Yeah, it's wild.
Always is.
Yeah, it's and we don't mean like mixed culture. No, we're not talking about that.
That was not a pun.
Yes, well, it kind of was.
I guess it was.
But anyway, I think you guys at St. Bernardus have a pretty interesting story, because you're very closely linked and kind of owe your origin to St. Sixtus Westvleteren, right?
Yes.
Could you go into a little bit of like the founding of the brewery and how you guys are so closely tied together?
Yeah, I can go into that.
And in the meantime, I'm going to open up one of your beers, if that's okay.
All right. So, but actually, you said that we're linked to the Trappist monastery of Westvleteren, and that's true. But earlier than that, we were linked to another Trappist monastery, right across the border from where we are in West Flanders, in the hop region of the brewery, in the hop region of Belgium, which is Poperinge, and those monks. Starting with
fully effects.
Well, I think the way I have the show planned, I think this is more of like what you guys have been innovating with lately. But this is
history.
I've got the.
So Chris
I've got
picked up the 12, and multiple people were like, "Are you sure that's what you want to start?" Right? It's 1 o'clock, but
That's okay.
Yeah.
You can do it.
We're professionals.
Yes.
Boy,
It's a quality control. Don't forget. When you're in the beer business,
Yes.
you never get drunk.
we're working.
It's always quality control.
Right.
The only thing that can
My
happen.
wife doesn't seem to agree.
No,
And I've got some for you, Alex.
The only
Just
thing that can
quietly
happen-
this time, please.
is that you work too hard. So if you come home late at night and your wife says, "Where have you been?" And you just tell her, "Hey, honey, sorry, I just worked too hard."
Yeah,
My
right.
girlfriend doesn't listen to the show, and I've definitely told her that.
Make sure
thank
don't
you.
don't pull up the shades. I can't see light today. I worked too hard last night.
No, honey, I'm a workaholic. We have different kinds of meetings.
Exactly.
That's
I like
nice.
that.
So yeah, the Trappist monastery of Mont des Cats started a cheese factory in a refuge.
Okay.
And it was called Refuge de Notre-Dame de Saint-Bernard.
Mm-hmm.
So when they went back to France, they sold the cheese factory to two brothers, who made the cheese factory bigger, made a lot of money, made a lot of profit from it. And then after the Second World War, those two brothers were contacted by a Trappist monastery called Westvleteren and asked them, "Do you want to make our beer?" So we got our name from the French guys, Refuge de Notre-Dame de Saint-Bernard. And then a little bit later, we got our beer and the recipes from the Trappist monks of Westvleteren. So the Trappist monks of Westvleteren didn't want to produce their own beer anymore. They wanted to focus on ora et labora, like that means that they want to pray,
Right.
and don't
The work of prayer, kind
the
of.
work of prayer instead of being too much in the worldly. You know, they wanted to be more in the religious, more in the mind. And they asked the two brothers, "Do you want to make our beer?" And they said, "Yeah, sure, but we don't know how." So the brewmaster from Westvleteren became a partner in the new brewery. He brought along all the recipes and the know-how, the technical equipment, and most importantly, he brought along the yeast strain from St. Sixtus. So from that day on, we started brewing for them under license the beers for them, and they were called Trappist Westvleteren in the beginning. A little bit later, they were called St. Sixtus, and even later, they were called Sixtus. So,
Okay.
and that's how, we started making beer. In 1992, our license came to an end.
Yeah, so this started in like the 40s, right?
Yeah, we're talking about after the Second World War. So from 1946 up until 1992, we brewed for them on the license. And in 1992, our license came to an end. And we decided to keep on brewing the same beer with the same recipe and the same yeast strain, but under a different brand name, which is the name of the brewery, Saint Bernardus.
Got it.
The name of the cheese factory.
Right.
From
Okay.
the French guys.
Ah, okay. And then those beers that you were brewing at the time, would those be related to kind of the 6, 8, 12 that you're brewing now?
Yes.
Okay.
We got from the monks 4 recipes, a 4, a 6, an 8, and a 12, but they were all dark beers. So
Right.
Right now we are making the 4 again since 2014, but it's a blonde beer. We didn't take the
Right.
recipe from those days, so we made a new beer, a single. And actually, the monks themselves started brewing for themselves again after they built a new brew hall in '85, and but they don't use the original yeast anymore. They use the yeast from another Trappist monastery.
Yeah, from Westmount, right?
You can say that. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think that's kind of yeah.
I always like to tell the story right because I don't want to get in trouble with
I
anybody.
understand. I've heard that their yeast now comes from
Allegedly.
Westmount. Allegedly.
No,
Yeah.
no, it's a fact, but
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
just a fact that they don't like.
Okay.
I don't like to say something about their beer.
Sure.
So,
Got
Very
it.
fair.
And so I have a quick question just to diverge just slightly. So I had heard that, historically these beers of different numbers, which relate to the strength, but based on, I think, a different kind of scale than is really used right now. So like, let's say 6, 8, 12 is roughly related to how strong the alcohol is going to be. Was that the same like grain bill for all of them, and it was like a first running, second running, third running type thing that they were getting the stronger, middle, and weakest of the three beers, or has it always been separate brews? Because I know now they do most even Belgian breweries will do different brews for each of the three, but I had heard historically, you started with your strongest, and then you would do a second running and a third running. Do you know anything about the history of that personally? Okay.
Personally, I don't know about that. But I do know why they are called 4, 6, 8.
Yeah, why?
And 12. There's also a 10, like Rochefort has a 10. It comes from the stamwoordgehalte. I think the right word is original density. So based on that, you had to pay taxes in Belgium. Taxes that got higher if your density was higher. So based on that, they made excise scales. And those scales were named 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12.
Got it.
So that's why Rochefort has a 10, and it's actually 11.2, because in the bottle conditioning, they add more sugar and more yeast so that it gets higher than the original density. And we don't, and that's why our 12 is only 10%.
Got it.
So that's a little bit. So you can say that the 4, our 4 is 4.8%, and our 6 is 6.7, the 8 is 8, and the 12 is 10. So it kind of doesn't really make sense.
I've noticed that before. You just have to kind of learn and generally understand that within their range, they're going to get stronger as it gets up there, as the numbers get up there. But I do know a lot of people think that it relates to the alcohol, which it does, but it isn't.
Not directly.
It isn't an indication of the alcohol.
It's also
strength.
not like Play-Doh or something like that. It's a different scale.
Right. So we've got the App 12 in the glass right now because it's what
Lunch
time
beer.
is it? Yeah, it's 1:30. Why not? So this is you said it was 10%, right? So would this beer be pretty closely related to what you guys have been brewing for quite some time? I know you have a new brewery and stuff like that, but how have the recipes developed over time?
Well, actually, we really like how our beer tasted. So when we built a new brew hall in 2014, we tried to build it in such a way that we could continue to make the same beer without changing the recipe, which isn't very easy because, normally when you put in a new brew hall, the size varies a little bit. We tried not to do that. So we had somebody build it exactly to our old brew hall. And another thing we did is that we still use a gravitational filter, whereas you could go towards a different kind of filtration system that would allow you to get more out of your ingredients.
Sure.
But we didn't want to do that and just continue and make the same beer.
You mean for
with the same recipe?
For the mash tun, you have like a regular gravity filter rather than like a mash.
We have a Platen filter,
a press.
A press that presses it together. Yeah. Mura uses that in Europe.
Yep.
I don't know who does that here, but
Not many people do it here. It's much more popular in Europe, it seems.
yes, it's something that's done a lot of time by breweries who also do pils or lager.
Right.
Yeah. So we try to we did adapt a little bit. We had before we had a centrifuge for after the mashing,
brew,
after the filtration, and we're doing that with a whirlpool now.
Oh, cool.
So that's something that we added. But the most important difference between the old brew hall and the new brew hall is that in the old brew hall we had two kettles. One was the first kettle was used both for the first and the third step, and in the middle we would filter in the filter.
So it was like a copper as they call it over in England, the copper and the whirlpool, and then the second kettle would be the mash tun.
Yes.
And now what you have?
Now we have three.
Okay, yeah.
So we can start brewing the second brew after the first step is done. So that makes a huge difference. Now we can do 6 brews. But actually the brew hall itself, the system itself, is as big as the old one.
Cool.
So that we didn't have to change the recipe.
That's great.
One thing that surprises me about this beer in particular, and the real old school Belgian beers, and there's plenty that are of Belgian that don't necessarily apply to, is how dry the beers are. I think it is a hallmark of the more kind of classic standard examples of it. There's certainly very sweet, very strong Belgian beers made in Belgium. But generally speaking, if you go to a tap room here in the United States and you get a quad, it's going to be sweet and plum and stuff like that, which you definitely get a lot of dried fruit here, but it's really nice. And I also like how the alcohol plays a role. I feel like you're supposed to feel some of that strength in there. I think it balances out some of the sweetness in the beer, and along with the really high carbonation levels and stuff like that.
And do you agree that you don't have the alcohol in your nose?
Yeah.
It's absent, and that's something that's important for us.
No, you don't really get that
It's like
that burn, but you get it. Yeah, like after you swallow it, there's a little bit of a glow there.
But
Is
definitely
how-
not like fusel or anything on the
No.
nose. Or anything. It's
No.
It's beautiful.
I hope we can say it's a pretty balanced beer.
Absolutely.
No, it's a classic. It's a classic. One thing I know I'll forget if I don't mention it now. Hopefully, I hope this dog barks the entire effing time that we're here. That'd be really awesome. Make me realize why we go into the back room to do it.
Right.
But for our
Isolate
guests, I
ourselves.
want to have it. I want Alex to be able to sit down in style back there. Look at him lounging. But anyway, so there is truth. Have you heard the rumor that the I want to say monk, but I guess technically he's not supposed to be a monk. The person, the religious person on the label of the app 12. Have you heard that on some of the labels he's blinking? He's winking rather.
No, I haven't heard about
Oh,
this.
really? I had heard that forever, and I've looked a bunch of times. I've never come across one, so I was like, that's not true. But I looked it up, and apparently it is true. It's true, right? There are some with winking.
Yes, it's true. 1 in 1,000.
Nice.
Well, I have to say, 1 in 1,000. Started doing that 12 years ago, and I didn't tell anybody in the brewery about it, not even the owner.
Okay.
Just something between me and the operators. The operators, I mean the guys who are putting the labels in the feeder.
Yeah.
So
Oh, so it was your idea.
yeah.
Okay, got it.
So
That's awesome.
and we just add one label to the back of that big pack. So it's
Oh,
1
it's
in
1,000
1,000, but it's
pack.
really
Right.
It's really like every 1,000, not
Right.
You can't have 2 in a 4-pack,
Right.
but we ran out of labels this summer,
Oh.
Never had that problem myself. So.
Yeah, right.
and we used only winking monks.
Oh, nice.
Oh, wow.
If any time in your lifetime you can find it easier, is right now, because we've gotten emails from people who say, I thought it was 1 in 1,000, and now I bought 3 4-packs,
Right.
and I have 12 winking monks.
Tell him to play the lottery.
Do I get to
play the lottery right now?
Do I get to go to the brewery and
Yeah,
see
right.
Oompa Loompas?
I've driven past the brewery one time. It was on my way to Brasserie Thier, and I didn't know that they were all so close together down there. And it's a beautiful facility. I think you said 2013 or 2014 is when the new brewery.
The new brew hall was added in 2014, and in 2018, I don't know when you came.
Yes,
back.
I think it was 2018. It looked like it was under construction in some way.
So we added a new warehouse,
Okay.
with an underground parking lot.
Oh,
You know where
okay,
we
yeah.
are, right?
Yeah.
So we're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
To
really.
have an underground parking garage right
I know.
there, I don't know.
Well,
if
here's
you
what I
know that,
thought
but it
as you
costs
were
a lot
saying
of
it.
money.
Why? Why? Just
Why?
put it in the field that's like
Yes.
right next, because it's in
The
farmland.
fields don't belong to us.
Ah.
They belong to the farmers around us.
Got it.
And it's very difficult to turn farmland into parking lot.
Got
Or maybe I should say it's impossible.
Okay.
It's just easier to dig a hole underneath.
So we dug a hole and we put 50 cars underground, and we added a cave
Okay.
where we can do something later.
Cool.
Got it.
When we want to.
That's cool.
H cheese.
Or
Or whatever.
beer.
Full
Yeah,
circle.
yeah.
Circle.
Or lager or whatever you want to do.
Yeah. But the thing is, we added that new building, and because of that, we were also able to add our rooftop bar. We have a rooftop
nice.
bar with panoramic views of the area.
Nice. You can see
see
all
up
the
to
all the
20
farmland.
25-kilometer wide.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's a big modern looking building. I do think it is surprising sometimes when you roll up to that these are modern breweries. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh no, it didn't. Oh, okay, it looked
Yes,
more like
yes,
that
yes.
where I
Yeah,
went
yeah,
by.
yeah. So we're looking. That's really convenient. For
And you're
a
showing.
podcast.
We should probably talk about
Because
exactly. Yeah.
it's really convenient for a podcast when you start showing things.
I know, I
Talking
was just
about
saying.
Visual media.
talking about labels. That's really nice. So we have
Google it.
a can of wit in front of us that we're gonna taste later, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And on the label, let's say on the can, you
Mm-hmm.
can see the whole brewery with on the right hand side the old brewery with the chimney. And then what we added in 2014, actually, you can also see the bed and breakfast, that the guest house that's now in the old cheese factory, and my office. And then you go
Oh,
to
there you
the-
are. You're waving. Hey, look at you. You're the one rolling the bales of hay. I see you sitting on it, taking a break,
Yeah,
not
taking
working
a-
at
Must
all.
spend lunchtime.
Yeah, I like to watch people work.
Yeah.
It's my favorite hobby.
A true leader.
Yes.
I do want to remark on this beer that it's not balanced just in that it's the bitterness and sweetness are in balance, but there's like depth of like the esters of the fermentation. Like in most American beer, it's just like, oh, it's sweet and bitter and is in harmony, but there's also depth of the fermentation profile and the esters, and then also some of the darker fruit character, and it's just like a more three-dimensional beer than a lot of other.
Dangerously drinkable. I mean, you could drink an entire glass of this probably more easily than you could a double IPA, and just be
Warm.
be careful.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
I say two more things about the beer?
Please.
Absolutely.
Well, first of all, as it warms up, it changes.
Yeah.
And secondly, so it changes in a way that you will get more fruity notes. Let's say maybe dates, dried dates, or dried figs.
Yep.
And another thing that I've noticed is when you pour the beer before, you didn't add the yeast to it. So I would recommend that you take the bottle and add a little bit of yeast to our glasses right now, so we can taste the beer with the yeast, and you will see that it changes a little bit. It gives it even more depth.
So, do you recommend pouring the yeast in with the bottle? Then with the
I
glass?
recommend doing what we did, namely pour the beer without the yeast, have a sip, then add the yeast, and find out for yourself what that difference does, and you will see that it gives more character and more flavor to the beer.
Yeah, definitely those the esters. I think.
Some of those spicy phenolics
Yeah.
too.
Yes, I think that's probably what I mean. Yeah.
Then it changes the body of it quite a bit.
Definitely does. Very
It's
cool.
delicious.
Yeah, no, what a great beer. I tend to, I think, drink the 8 the most. I just step it down a little bit, but it is always a nice treat to have St. Bernardus 12, and I would put it up there with any of the big Trappists. They're big kind of Grand Crus or whatever you want to call them. So can you talk a little bit about Abbey Ale versus Trappist Ale and stuff like that?
Well,
Because you're an Abbey beer, or you make Abbey ales, but you're not an Abbey brewery, right?
right.
Right,
Yeah,
yes.
that's good.
Yes.
So I've told you the story before that we used to brew for a Trappist monastery on the license. So we don't really have a connection to an abbey in the direct sense. And what do I mean in the direct sense? Maybe I'll explain better if I explain what an abbey beer is. An abbey beer, an official abbey beer, is a beer that is brewed where the proceeds, or like the money that's made,
proceeds.
Part of that has to go to an actual abbey. A good example of that is Leffe, I think you say. It's brewed by AB InBev in the brewing installation wherever they want. They can brew it in Belgium, they can brew it in, doesn't matter. Right. But they have a deal with the Abbey of Leffe that they have to give them money for every liter, every barrel that they
But it's
make.
entirely up to them. It's not regulated how much has to go, because I went to Bernardus and they were talking a little bit about how the differences, and they used Leffe as an example as well, talking about just the differences of it could be. I think they gave more to the abbey, to their abbey, Bernardus, than Leffe gave to their abbey, even though Leffe is making a gajillion times more beer. Right. But Bernardus was located literally on the grounds, well, just outside the grounds. I don't think it was in the monastery, which I think it has to be like within the grounds for it to be Trappist. And it was also operated by, it was kind of like farmed out to a commercial entity to
lay people,
yes,
not people of the cloth.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, actually, if you talk about how much money goes into that, I don't know, because we don't have that.
Right.
We don't do that, so we don't give any money to the monks.
Right.
So and therefore we do not have the official since 2001, maybe. I think since 2001 there is an official Abbey Ale logo that goes on the back of their beers. But we don't have that. We never asked for it. There is a Saint Bernardus Abbey in Belgium, but it's in Bornem. It's very far from us. And besides that, they have their beer. It's called Bornem.
Oh,
so that's an Abbey beer, an official one, brewed by Jeff Verzelen van Ertvelde van Steenbergen.
Oh,
who makes Oversteen or Gulden Draak. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we don't really have we wouldn't know who to give money to, so we decided not to
keep it,
not to
build a
have that
lot
little logo. But we think an Abbey Ale is a type of beer. It's a single, a double, a triple, a quadruple, and that's maybe the biggest difference with Trappist beer. Trappist beer isn't a style. Trappist beer is
designation.
It's a designation. It's brewed inside the walls of a Trappist monastery, and they also have a logo. It's octagonal, I think,
it's like a
six
pentagonal, maybe, or I forget if it's how it goes. Something like that.
Six
Hex.
Whatever.
Hex, is it hex?
Yes, hex.
Hex. Okay.
Look at us doing geometry.
Wow. So maybe nice to know about that is that that is regulated by an international association of Trappist products.
Right.
And the
There's
logo,
Trappist cheeses and stuff like that as well, right?
The Trappist logo goes on things that are made in the.
You were right.
So it's not. It doesn't say authentic Trappist beer. It says authentic Trappist product because it can also be bread or cheese or
furniture. Here in the U.S., they make a lot of Trappist breweries, Trappist monasteries make furniture.
There you go.
It's like a lot of them. How many?
There's a bunch in the U.S.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, there are.
I mean,
a bunch meaning like
Trappist
several.
brewery, but
they don't. Yeah, they often will make honey or
I know there's
candles.
There's one making cheese up in New England by where I grew up.
But there's a bunch again. So there are several that make furniture as well. Now, that's a scorching hot take. Go ahead and look it up. But I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Yeah. So, but another nice thing about that logo is that they wanted to implement that logo in the 80s, but they had to wait until 1992 because there was a brewery from Matu who still had a license to brew Trappist beer, so they had to wait until our license came to an end.
So you saw it coming, or did they blindside you with that?
No, we saw it coming because they already had built a new brewery.
Mm-hmm. Oh, don't worry about that. That's just something else. Don't worry about that.
That's Gary's homebrew.
Yeah, exactly. That's Father Gary's homebrew.
Yeah. Oh my God. There's another thing that gave it away, namely, so our original license was for 30 years. So from 1946 until 1976. Mm-hmm. But we renewed it early in 1962 when the daughter of the owner, Bernardus, became, together with her then new husband, came into the brewery, and Guy Klaus said, well, we need to have a license that's a little bit longer. So they renewed it for 30 years early in 1962. So it would end in 1992. And we tried to do that same thing in the 80s, but they said no. So we were talking to each other.
Yeah, and it sounds like you guys still do talk to each other even now.
Yes, if
we have to. If you see them, if you pass them on the road.
But it's like a family reunion.
Yeah, right.
We don't bump into them often because...
They're close, though, right?
The other Trappist monasteries, we see the people who are behind it on trade shows and because they have a commercial entity.
Sure.
But we don't really bump into the people from Westvleteren because they don't... They kind of don't come outside a lot. So
got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So moving, if it's okay, I wanted to talk about kind of some of the other styles that are maybe not historically Abbey style beers that St. Bernardus does, which you guys also have had a history of doing. So you have the 6-8-12. You've had the triple for a long time, as long as I can remember.
Since 92.
92. Okay, so that's
that's been
interesting
added.
Timing.
Really, the timing is because we lost the license.
Right, yeah.
We added a triple.
Nice.
Right, and then
triple was like the hot new thing for
in 92, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, it's like different. It was a different world. It wasn't like you made a new IPA every week. It was
right.
Like, we can do this now. Let's do this new thing.
Right. And I'm curious. All right. Well, are you familiar? And if you're not, that's totally okay. Like in '92, like what was triple associated as just a Belgian style of beer, or was it like, were any eyebrows raised that there was a secular brewery brewing a triple style ale, or did nobody really care? Now nobody cares, but back in '92, do you have any idea?
Well, I think a lot of times the name triple was connected to an Abbey beer or a Trappist beer. Either one or the other, and right now maybe you can even make a triple if you don't carry an Abbey beer like-ish name.
Yeah.
But back then that was definitely something that was done only by them. You know? We don't forget we came from a market where Duvel was a big brand.
Right.
Yeah, so like even back in '92, I mean, Duvel was the big boy, right? The big local.
Yeah, definitely. But Leffe was selling a lot of beer in Belgium back then.
Okay, interesting.
Not anymore.
When did InBev buy them? Do you have any idea?
Phew,
I mean, I don't know.
I was in Ghent, so yeah, must have been around that period.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Stella Artois was a separate brewery, and I think maybe end of the 80s, 85, 90, something like that. Mm-hmm. Sorry.
So we have you guys, you have your countrymen to thank for the global hegemony of AB InBev now.
Yeah, back then it was it has had different names over the years.
Oh yeah, InBev and
it was Interbrew.
Interbrew, right?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
When Jupiler and Stella Artois went together, it became Interbrew, and I think that was in somewhere around 85, 90.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. Way before my time.
literally before my time. I wasn't.
Yeah, it's true.
Wasn't born yet.
Yeah, boy.
If it was 90, I was.
Man, I feel old.
Yeah, right. So the other thing, we just talked about the triple, and the reason I opened up this can of wit was because another thing that kind of set you guys apart was that you also brewed a wit, which a lot of other breweries that were focusing on Abbey styles, as heavily as St. Bernardus was, because you were naming yourself after a saint, and there are other breweries out there that I think people aren't aware of. There are Belgian breweries that have brands that are multiple brands that don't really associate with one another the way you would always do in the U.S. So you may have, I'm trying to think of an example, but
I have a good one if you want.
Please.
Bavik.
Yeah.
They have a wit that's called Wittekirk.
Wittekirk, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or they have
Super
an amber-colored beer. It's called Quaremont.
Mm-hmm.
So they choose to have multiple brands under one and the same brewery, but not specifically the same name.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we have almost all our beers carry the same name. There's only one exception. That's the Watu Triple. That's not under the name of St. Bernardus.
So you still make that beer?
Yes.
Ah.
It just doesn't come to America.
Yeah. I was going to ask if I'd heard that you have two different triples.
Yes, we do.
Because I was reading an old Michael Jackson book, and he had mentioned that you have two triples, one called Watu and one called St. Bernardus Triple. And I was like, oh, the Watu, this is an old book. It must not be around anymore. So it is still made.
I know that book. It's a nice book.
It is a nice book.
You know why I like it so much? Because it shows you how what you write down on paper today can be completely wrong in 2-3 years.
Right.
Oh,
So
right.
He names the 5 true Trappists in
Right.
that book, and it says the 3 Walloons. So I call Rochefort, Chimay, and Orval, and he names Westmalle, and he names Saint Sixtus, and a picture of our beer with our monk.
Right. There. Oh.
And there's still no Achel, there's no La Trappe. So there were only 5, and I just named them. And there was no Zundert, there was no Austrian or Trefontane from Italy. But when you read it now, you're like, oh my God, you really have, if you write something down, you have to put a date by it, because otherwise, if you say something, then people go 3 years later going to say, that's a lot of BS, because that's not true.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in those books that you go back and read, you're like, nah, that's not really true at all. I mean, it spans all brewing texts, not just ones about like beers like that. Like I've talked to you about how like beer brewing books, there'll be like things that they say, this is how you get this flavor. And it's like, now we know that that's not true. That was just like old wives' tale stuff.
But I think the Belgian brewing books have a different flavor.
Yeah.
Because I think with the U.S. brewing books, it's just people were factually wrong.
Right.
Where the Belgian stuff, half of it is stuff has changed, or they were just being lied to.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody lies like the Belgians, man. You guys, like, I mean,
We're not that open.
It's the best.
No.
So if you put this on the, if you put us to the, how do you say that?
The light
on the
detector.
block and the light, then
Yeah.
we will give you an answer that we want to give you.
right. I have
So it's like asking me, where can I get your yeast? And then I'm like,
I don't know. What yeast? We don't use yeast. What are you talking about? What's yeast?
no speak English.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But sometimes just flat out lie too. We have a friend of ours who owns a brewery, and he was at a farmhouse brewery in Belgium, and with someone that he knew quite well, and was asking him what his fermentation temperatures was like. He's like, so you guys let it get up to like 90, high 90s, something like that, right? And the owner said, "Oh no, we're in the low 80s with our fermentation," and he said he was standing directly in front of a fermentation tank, and he could see the thermometer on it behind him was in the high 90s. And it's just like that's. I think that's something I've taken away from. I think in a way, it's as long as you know that's what you're dealing with.
Charming.
I think, right. It's just like, okay, just don't.
Yeah, it's part of the whole thing. It's also like part of why there's mystique around Belgian beers that doesn't exist around like a bunch of other beers that come to America.
But like, it's also like
you're getting told a beautiful lie sometimes, and it makes the experience more fun.
True, but they might just be like like Dan Carey at New Glarus. I think is very tight-lipped and will say we don't share that information, even some very, very basic things, probably because they don't want to open the door.
Right.
That's not what the Belgians do. They'll answer, but they'll mislead you.
Yeah, sure.
I found a solution for myself for that problem. I asked people in the brewery not to give me any secrets. So
right.
when I started working there, I said, listen, I'm from Limburg, the other side of the country. My origins lie in Italy.
Yeah, I could tell from the name.
I don't want to lie because I don't want to get shot. You know?
Right.
So please don't tell me anything that you want me to lie about later.
Right.
Just don't tell me. Mm-hmm. So right now, when somebody asks me something I don't know, I use this as a apology.
It's a good
So
system.
I just say
that
must. I don't know. Sorry, I really don't know. But that has to be. Because I don't know, it's probably a secret.
Yeah,
so even if I forgot about something,
right? That's
I
good.
use that.
It's great. It's great.
That's
you know,
awesome.
use that.
Smart.
No, it is smart, and I have a few stories about that. I have one at Duvel, where we were a mutual friend who was an engineer and knows a lot about beer, and was talking to them about what do they prime, like how much sugar do they add to the Duvel. And they're like, there's no sugar added to Duvel. And we're all looking at each other. We're like, well, we know there is. And they're like, no. And then everyone else that we were with were like, they're not going to tell you. And then he couldn't get it out of his head and started going to like brewers who are having like their shift beers and stuff like that. And everyone's like, I don't know. And they wouldn't say anything. But there was like a guide who was telling him adamantly, no. We do not. I know the answer. The answer is no, we don't. And he just couldn't accept it. And I was like, come on, Jack, it's Chinatown.
Right. I know a brewer whose brewery got bought by one of those breweries and was there watching them add something to the kettle and been like, oh, how much of that are you adding? Like, we don't add that. Like, I just watched you do it.
And they work for the same company.
Yeah.
Okay, we can get off on that. But I think that's so funny. Anyway, but you make a wit. Right? It's back to that,
yes,
which I think was always kind of set you guys, in my mind, when I was just first getting into beer, apart. And I will also say that I think you make one of the very best in the entire world. The St. Brenner's wit is amazing. It's always been one of my favorites. And I think it has a really interesting story, too, because you have, it has ties to the god of wit himself, right? Pierre Celis? Or the necromancer? The necromancer of wit, as I was calling him before?
White Walker.
Yeah,
the White Walker. The Wit Walker.
Yeah.
The Wit Walker.
So, we were friends. Let's start at the beginning. We wanted to make a wit beer, but couldn't get the recipe right. We had a friend. His name is Pierre Celis. He's the founder of, not the founder, but he resurrected the whole wit beer market.
Which was dead.
Which was completely dead. And he did that in Hoegaarden, where he lived. Mm-hmm. Used to be a milk salesman. So, and from that, he was interested in the wit beer, and he started growing that, and he made it really big. He sold it to Stella Artois. Mm-hmm. And then it went up into Interbrew that we just talked about. And but he made another beer, and that beer was called Grotten beer. Grotten beer was a beer that he would put into caves near Liège and Maastricht, And he would let that lie there, and he was looking for somebody to make that beer for him, and he came to us. And we took, instead of just making it for him, we decided to buy the beer from him as a brand, and we gave him royalties for the sales that we did on that beer. Okay? And in return, he helped us unofficially, not officially, but unofficially, he helped us to tweak our wit. So he gave us some ideas of what to do and what to add and what not to do, and that way we got to this recipe that we still use today and that we are very happy with.
Yeah, it's delicious.
And you used to call him out right on the bottles, right?
Yes, and
there's you right there on the can now, snubbing him, not putting his name on the can anymore. I think you're saying no. Don't put his name on it. No, I'm kidding.
His daughter Christine, has a brewery in Texas.
Texas, yeah.
And when Pierre passed away in 2011, she asked us to not use his name anymore, and we decided that we weren't going to do. Well, we granted that, and we said yes, of course, Christine.
Sure.
So we don't use his name anymore on our labels. And
were you alive in 2011? Do you remember, Mike?
No, I wasn't alive.
You weren't alive then? Okay. Okay, yeah, wow.
graduated
Just
from
shows how
college,
old
right?
I am, because I remember it well.
I'm 11.
You're 10.
Yeah, I'm 10, right?
Yeah.
The Saint Bernardus wit, we think it's used a lot of times as a depiction of the classic style of wit. But actually, in my opinion, I agree with everybody who says that it's a great beer, and I do believe it's a classic Belgian wit, but it's brewed in a completely different way than a normal wit, because it's bottle we're drinking a can now, but normally it's bottle conditioned. It's a 33 centiliter bottle, which normally in Belgium it's always 25. It's high fermentation. So it's brewed with our yeast.
Really?
So all our beers are brewed with the same primary yeast. So
really?
Actually, it's very strange to brew. It's very strange for us to brew a wit, and yeah.
I
mean, it's definitive of the style for me.
Yes, I agree. But then again, we get there
right
by taking a huge detour.
And it's quite coriander
Very
heavy,
cool.
but it's such a lovely coriander note, because when coriander is overdone, I think Randy Mosher was the one who I first heard use the term hot dog water. And you start getting them. They taste like gross, like hot dogs and stuff.
There's like spice soups.
Right. But this is so nice and lovely. And people who listen to the show, Marcos may think we're just talking up. We don't usually sit there and ooh and ah over beers with the person who's making it there. Like, we have people set their beers down and we drink. I'm like, oh, this is nice and stuff like that. Often it's like off mic. We just kind of nod and say, oh, cool, yeah,
Usually
good, I like
point
it.
to it is the biggest compliment.
But this is, it is a really nice wit. And if you guys haven't had the St. Bernardus wit, it is a slightly more spendy, and I know you have to reach past the Allagash white, but it's worth it. I think you should definitely add it to your repertoire of wit beers, because I think it's one that needs to be tasted and enjoyed and experienced.
I have to kind of disagree with you.
Oh, it's not one of the ones you have to try?
No.
Oh.
It's not that expensive.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Life's too short.
Yeah.
To drink shitty beer anyway.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So, but no, really, it's not.
I didn't
that
say too
expensive.
expensive.
No,
it's
not. It's like, I think it retails for a 4-pack, like between 10 and 12.
Oh, is that right, Alex? Is that right? For the bottles? No, for the cans. The cans have come down in price. Yeah. Well, then maybe it also shows how out of touch I am with my own shop, because the bottle 4-packs used to be, they used to be like 15, 16,
Yes,
a 4-pack, and it was tough.
And then we brought the cans, and we took the price a little bit down.
There you go.
Because we do big volumes on those.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And that was another innovation that you guys... So another way that I think... It's funny. So there'll be breweries that kind of... We were talking about this last week, Mike, with your dad, about how there'll be breweries that maybe do different things that seem to come like, well, where's this coming from? What's the motivation for this? And it seems like St. Bernardus has always been a little bit like conservatively progressive in what they do. They put out different styles of beer than you may expect from an Abbey-style brewery like the Wit. And then you did other things as well. So I think you were doing, like, it was either you or Chimay who were the first doing, like, early on to the oak aging cans for sure. I mean, you were way early on cans, right? No.
We were. I think we're still one of
for the Wit, right?
For the Wit, we now it's a colored label with, like you said,
and the print
me on it and my office on it. And the rooftop bar.
Nicer than the old ones. Dude, the old ones were like just had the
old ones,
the monk or the guy. I don't
know.
Yeah,
they were black and white. So I think we did that maybe like 6 years ago. So we were pretty early on. Yes,
it's very cool. It's got a very modern look to it, and like I like the guy, the cloth man is silhouetted on this rather than the traditional.
Also, not very Belgian to have good design.
Well,
I mean, if this was a true Belgian beer, it would look like it. I'd say right about now, contemporary Belgian branding should look like it's from the maybe 2001, maybe 91. It has to be 20 to 30 years behind everything else, where it's like just out of style.
You had Belgian slander on this episode. They're
No,
all
I mean,
liars, and
some of the Belgian labels are like we're so terrible, and right when they were becoming endearing, would change them again. Sure. And St. Bernardus has never done that. They have the classics that are just like, okay, we're not going to really mess with this. And then stuff like these cans where, I mean, you know what I'm talking about, man. I mean, some of the Belgian branding is bad, but then they don't lean into it. They then change it to something else bad, so it doesn't even have time to like become endearing.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying.
Sorry, Marcos.
I understand what you say.
I'm sure you do, because you're the one who's probably notices it and changes it.
That's why we did something innovative. Let's say.
Yeah.
And well, in our brewery, we see a number of beers as our main track beers, and then we have a few other beers that we only internally see as sidetrack. So when we talk about main track, we go to the 6, the 8, the 12, the triple, and sidetrack. Well, I don't know if you know that, but we have a Christmas sale where our St. Bernardus is wearing a Christmas hat. Yeah. That's not really traditional from the 1940s, Right? No. So that's something that I started doing that in. It was one of my first projects actually in 2007. So.
And one of the best, again. I mean, one of the best Belgian Christmas sales is St. Bernardus 12. It's on my Mount Rushmore, I would say.
Christmas sales?
It's up. Yeah, it is. It's one of the best.
So if your Mount Rushmore has four beers carved into it, and I think it's all St. Bernardus so far, right?
Yeah, four different vintages of St. Bernardus. Yes. Yeah.
So the oak aged.
See, I'm being Belgian here. I'm telling you an answer that is blatantly not true.
Yeah, and I'm also being Belgian and just going over it.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry.
To stand still.
Yeah.
You don't have to stand still with the fact that it's not true. Yeah. So I was going to say something about the oak aged, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
We don't have it in front of us, but it's kind of nice to go back to that story. So we bought Calvados barrels and put beer in it, AB 12, for 6 months, took it out, blended it with young and fresh beer, and put it on the market and called it oak aged. Okay, and instead of throwing away those kegs, those barrels, we decided to put a fresh batch of AB 12 in it and let it go sour.
Cool.
So 3 years later, the beer comes out and it's perfectly soured, and we blended it with young and fresh beer, brought it on the market as a barrel-aged sour. So that was those were two things that we did in the past, let's say, 10 years.
And how much of that are you doing? Do you do a lot? Like, is that a continuous program, or is there a couple special things?
No, that was like every time we do something like that, it's a one-off. Like the oak aged, it was a one-off, and then the barrel aged sour, a one-off. We had a birthday last year, 75th anniversary.
Congratulations!
We're bringing a beer for that. We brought a beer for that, but it's only hitting the market, this market, US, end of this year. Cool. So you guys can be on the lookout for that. But awesome. Very limited. I think we sent 2 pallets to America.
What format? Is it draft 75. And package?
No,
okay.
Only 750s.
750s. Love it. See, that's what I like too.
That's what I'm talking about.
750s. Like this is a special occasion.
Right.
Deal with it.
Yeah. Yes. You want it? Buy it.
Yeah.
You don't want it? Go and where did you have to go? And it was like a park. You said you don't want to come and stand in line here to buy a ticket.
Oh yeah. Go up. Yeah. Go somewhere else. Go
kick rocks.
Yeah. Go kick rocks. So the biggest innovation, the biggest I think divergence you guys have done, the one that was surprising to me, and in a good way, in an intriguing way, was this latest can, and I'm so glad we're getting to do both of them, which is the Tokyo.
Tokyo, yes.
Right? Which is another one of your babies, right?
Yes. Well, again, I say babies, but it's I'm not a brewer, okay? So our brewer's name is Wouter de Lee. He makes wonderful beers, and we're very, very proud of what he can do. But let's say maybe I come up with the ideas behind the what are we gonna do? What are we gonna make? And then we make it happen. But for example, when you talk about the cans and the design of the cans, that's all. I have to give credit to Pieter Verdonk, my colleague in the brewery, who convinced everybody that we should hire 2 separate artists to do the artwork for us.
Oh, really?
So,
it's 2 separate artists.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So this is from Jonas de Wacht, and this is from.
He's pointing. You're pointing at the Tokyo.
Arno, yeah, and this one,
the classic can.
Arno Kiss.
Got it.
He makes a lot of. We got to know him because he makes a lot of artwork for posters for concerts of bands.
Oh, cool.
Got it. Okay.
I mean,
really nice. You can check it out on our website.
That's how Pipeworks would operate. That's a cool band poster. Let's email that guy.
Right. That's true. So tell me about what Tokyo is, because it's also a wit. So now you have of your core beers. Let's say the ones that are available on the regular here in the United States. You have the 6, 8, 12. Then you've got the triple. All right. And then, so that's only 4 beers. And then you've got the wit. And then for your 6th beer, another wit. So, like, what's the deal? Like, tell me about it. 2 wits out of the 6.
Yeah, well, you're forgetting a few. We also have an extra 4, which is a single.
That's right. You do have an extra 4. That's right.
Yes. And then we have a Christmas ale.
Christmas ale, but that's not year-round, is it?
No, but no, it's very important for us.
It is. Oh, I'm not saying that you don't have any other important beers. I was saying your year-round beers. But the 4, you're right, 4.
But I do agree with you that it's kind of strange to make another wit.
Yeah.
But then again, this wit is very far from our regular wit.
Yeah.
Because we use more spices in it, and that way it goes more towards let's say Oriental or maybe Asian, I think. idea behind it, and some people here refer to it as something between a wit and a saison. So I don't know if you agree with that, because you're good in you're like the master of farmhouse
I'm
ales
not a
here.
master.
He
of
heard- he
not
came
a master
in.
of anything.
Marcos came in saying, like, where's this saison master I keep hearing about? And I said, Mike Shalau said, yeah, he's one of the co-hosts, and you should have seen the look on his face.
Yeah, lit up. I'm
Really? What?
I mean, it certainly is more reminiscent of a saison than the classic wit, for sure. It's delicious too.
Yeah.
Wow.
We
What's
over the years, so we have a pub in Tokyo that we opened.
You do?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Not a real tap room. It's a brasserie, so you can eat and drink there. All our beers are there.
Is that a huge market for you? Obviously, it is.
Yeah.
Or you just like to go to Tokyo? Did you just want an excuse to go to Tokyo?
Yes.
Exactly. Okay. Very Ed Marian of you. Yeah.
Hans, the owner of the brewery, and myself, we are in love with the Japanese kitchen, and this way, a trip to our pub becomes 100% tax
Right
deductible.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I know this game.
yes. So no, our importer in Japan, his name's Ryohei Sugawara-san.
Okay.
Really nice guy, crazy guy too, and he convinced us to do this pub with him. He already had a few other pubs from, for example, he owns 3 Delirium cafes. He has some other branded bars as well that he runs and owns. And he came to us and he said, we really want to do San Bernardus coffee. And he already made designs. He knew where he was going to do it. So we said, I said, Hans, what are we going to do with that? Hans says, Rio, if you come to Belgium with 18 beautiful women, then I will say yes. So what do you know? A few weeks later, there he is with 18 women by his side, and they all asked the same question. Hans, can you come to Japan? Can you come to Japan?
This guy knows what he's doing.
Right. I mean,
But it was a really, they take everything literally. So we have to
be careful
stop making jokes.
Right. Yeah, you have to honor that now.
And so for the opening of that pub, we made a beer called San Bernardus Tokyo. We put it in 750s, as we always do when we make something nice and special.
Yeah.
Put it in 750s and sell it, most of it in Japan and a little bit all over the world. And so many years later, we're heading towards the Summer Olympics, Olympic Games in Tokyo. And we thought it was a good idea to bring that beer back. So we started working on the design, and we came up with a really nice name for the beer. It was going to be called Tokyo 2020. And finally, just before we printed the cans, I decided to take off the 2020. For some reason, I don't know. I had like a feeling, let's not do that. Maybe
2020 might not be a year you want to be associated with.
because this was 2019.
No, I know.
There was no.
You had a premonition.
I'm joking.
Yeah,
I'm saying
it's
like a premonition, like,
But
maybe something
it was
will
more
happen.
like, I think I dropped it because I thought, what if we want to keep selling it? Right. Then it'll be like Tokyo 2020. What's that going to be in 2029?
How old is this beer? Yeah.
Very
And, Blade Runner.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yes,
what
yes.
if it's like, the next,
So I took it off. Said this way we also don't have any problems with Olympic Games because Tokyo 2020, it's like maybe trademarked. I don't know. And we took it off.
Litigious.
And then I asked Wouter to make I said, make something. Do something nice. And that's what he came up with. So I'm really, really, really happy with what he did.
It's delicious.
Got it.
It's a little bit more alcoholic as well. It's like 6% instead of 5.
A little full-bodied. Very different spice character to it as well. I mean, if someone...
Floral.
Yeah, more floral. If someone said this is a wit beer, you certainly wouldn't say, no way. But if someone says this is just a Belgian ale, you wouldn't say, oh, this is a wit.
Right.
Where with the wit, even if to you, Marcos, it's an unusual wit or so. I mean, to my palate, just because when I was learning what a wit was, this was one of the ones that was in my glass. I was like, no, this is a wit.
But I agree with you.
Yeah.
It is the classic wit, but the way we get there
Right.
is like a workaround. Like it's not straightforward. If you want to have like a straightforward wit, you have to go to Blanche de Bruxelles, Blanche de Namur, Blanche de Liège, maybe even, or Hoegaarden, and they're all brewed in a different way than what we do. But I interrupted you.
But use
No,
the tools
sorry.
you
Please.
use the tools you have to make something the way you
That's
want to
it,
taste
you know.
it.
That's it. So, and that's what Pierre came in. He helped us to do that because we couldn't figure it out.
Okay. So I'm sure that you've got other ideas about what you want to do next. If you want to try something different, what you want to do. Is there anything that you could say or maybe even hint at? Like so you guys have always been trying new things. Now, not in the new every month there's something new from St. Bernardus, but every couple years, maybe every 3-4 years, there's like something else. Like, what is interesting? What markets, as the market shifts, where do you want to see St. Bernardus kind of helping kind of fill needs or kind of explore other areas? Because, as we said before, it's wild out there.
But
I'm
maybe,
curious.
Maybe we can go into the wild first.
Okay,
Is
go
that
for
okay?
it.
And then I can
Please.
explain
Sure.
why my answer is coming later.
Okay.
So in 2020, so our brewery has been growing a lot over the past 20 years. I'm there since 2003, and the brewery has grown.
You're not putting any correlation between that. You've been there for 19 years.
I wasn't even born yet.
And yeah, right. he wasn't even born. And it's been growing I got there, 19 years ago. We've been doing a lot of growth in the last 20 years. I'm just going to say that. But anyway, no, I'm sorry. Now I interrupted you. I'm sorry,
that's
Marcos.
okay.
I'm trying to get you a raise, man.
That's not why I say that. I'm trying to make a point. You will see.
Yeah.
So we've grown a lot. We were 8 people. We did 8,000 hectoliter. Now, last year we did 49,000, and this year probably around 55. And we did that with a little less than 50 people. So that means that the brewery is growing a lot. You can actually see it on the can of wit, how much it has grown. If you go completely to the right, that was what the brewery was before. It was very small, and it has grown a lot. In 2020, we didn't grow, but we stayed flat.
Pretty good for 2020.
Which was for that year, it was great. And last year, we were growing again with,
What?
I think we were
Really?
plus 16, I think. And this year also plus 16. So, yeah.
Marcos.
No, we're growing. What do you mean? You don't believe me?
No, I do believe you. No, I don't think you're being Belgian. I just think you're very good at what you do, obviously. Because congratulations, that's amazing. I'm very happy for you.
And you said it is wild, but I say to you that we are growing immensely in the United States of America.
What?
We are growing immensely. So,
Alex, this is true. Give me a nod. All right. If Alex says it's true.
We are really growing a lot. We're doing a great job with DNV and the whole team.
Yeah.
They're really doing their other best to get our beer everywhere. And
Good for
I
you.
feel also that a lot of people tend to go more towards classics because it is so wild out there. There are so many new breweries, so many new beers, and when you go to a bar, you might be overwhelmed by what do I have to drink now, and then you drink 1 or 2 new things that you never had, but before you go home in the end of the evening, you say, before I go, I'll have an App 12, please. And then you can go to sleep, and then you say, "Oh, it was a good night."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very true.
So
I think it probably
we're
takes
the
some confidence.
go-to beer,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the classic, where you can go to and feel happy. And
So let me ask you a question. Let me push you on this a little bit, because I am I think it's very impressive, is what I'll say. So there are a lot of beers that have been around for a long time. A lot of them are getting slaughtered right now. There's a lot of beers that could be familiar go-to beers. Why is St. Bernardus resonating with people as a end of the night go-to beer,
and not somebody else.
Yeah, why are you up? However much
I think,
percent.
I have to be careful. I don't want to throw too much
Shade, slander. Yeah.
No, too much on my side. Too much flowers to myself.
I can watch your head. It's getting bigger and bigger.
That's what we're trying to get you to do.
Yeah, right.
I think it has to do with the fact that I've been coming here for 16 years now, 4 trips a year, trying to visit distributors, trying to visit bars, trying to go to people, trying to see people. And our importer has a team of excellent sales guys who
They're
are
quiet,
very well known in their areas, and we are very consistent with people, but also with our beer.
Yes.
If you didn't drink St. Bernardus Ab 12 for a whole year as a bartender, and there's somebody sitting at your bar and saying, "Hey, can you give me something else than these IPAs that you've been serving me all evening? And do you have something dark and strong?" The guy will say, "This I can recommend him this beer. I will not be shamed by that beer."
Right.
So and
it will deliver.
It will deliver. So that's something that we've seen over the years happen.
That's great.
So it's not just one thing; it's 100 different little things.
It's just
together.
working at it and putting a team together. And I will say, Alex, for as much as I've been joking, I joke because Alex is one of the best, and I've been working with Alex for a long time, and he's great, and it isn't a surprise that he's with you guys. So he's sitting over there.
But now,
so it makes sense.
Now for the little bit of slander.
Yeah,
it's not,
go for
not
it.
Real slander,
That's what we're here
but
for.
I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah.
There were times when I was talking to other Belgian breweries and saying that I kept coming to America. We were in decline. 2016, 17, we were doing worse. It were the very, very difficult years, and I kept coming. I kept visiting, I kept pushing, we kept doing those beer dinners, we kept doing those general sales meetings and trying to convince distributors that our beer was there to stay and that we wouldn't go away, so you better buckle up because we're going somewhere. And that's what we've done over the past years. So I think it's all little things added up. And at that time, when I talked to Belgian brewers about that, they said, "Yeah, I stopped going. Forget about that market. It's craft beer has taken over, and we don't sell enough there anymore." And they gave up on it.
Yeah,
basically. So.
And we on this show lament that happening because it's not just Belgium; it's a lot of other foreign countries have kind of given up, and it at first was like, oh, they're gone, and then about 2 years ago, there was like a crisis where, for a shop like ours, which is a specialty store, but it has a market where someone asks, do you have a Scottish ale or something from Scotland? And you're like, no, we don't have one. Wait, the Beer Devil does not have one? All right, well, do you have an English bitter? No, we don't have one. No.
Not from England, at least.
No.
Yeah.
No, there was probably a time where we did not have one at all.
Yeah.
And you start realizing, like, they're not IPA, but there's going to be people who want this type of beer. And I will say that Belgium what happened with Belgium is in a way what people said was going to happen with craft beer in the past couple of years, and maybe is still going to happen. Where it's kind of like a culling of what is available, but there's certain ones that went away that I wish hadn't, and there's some that have stayed that I was like, oh, I wish I could have traded them. But for the most part, there was no way that they, like, if St. Bernardus left the United States, I mean, that would have been a big deal. We would have, like, complained. So it's...
But a good example for that is that friends of ours, so I can say Good and Carolus hasn't been brought to the US for a few years now, but they decided to change that and come back.
Yes.
So they're making an actual comeback. So I'm very
Good for them.
glad for that.
Yeah.
Very glad for them. But they also realize that they have to start from not scratch, but they have to start from very little volumes. They will have huge percentual growth, though.
I complained, and I was very angry, and I was complaining a lot with a certain distributor when I couldn't get their certain beers. Maybe a certain beer that comes out a certain time of year that might be on a certain Mount Rushmore of mine. So it's
St.
great.
Bernardus Christmas Ale.
Yeah, exactly.
Just 4 of those on the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I'm happy. I'm really happy to see some of these breweries coming back. And I think it's because probably there's a good chance that breweries like St. Bernardus have shown, like, listen, no, if you stick around, and they're gaining on they're just standing on your shoulders, basically what I'm saying, Marcos. They're just hangers on,
You're saying that St. Bernardus is holding up the entire Belgian beer in America.
I mean, as Marcos say, I don't want to say it, but now that you've said it, I can
co-sign.
No, but it is important, and I do think that there was a time where, like, Belgian beer, and I think this, like, 16, 17 was seen as, like, not like the hip, cool thing, and a lot of even U.S. breweries, like, they were, like, moving away from the style and stuff like that. Now I think English beer was the first, and I use those as an example, and now you see breweries here domestically making them to fill in that gap. I think Belgian beer almost got to that point where the U.S. breweries were going to start making them to fill in that gap. But I think the Belgians have come back quick enough where maybe, and I'm happy for that.
I think a lot of U.S. breweries started out trying to be that. I can't tell you how many breweries I've encountered. They're like, oh, yeah, we were a Belgian-only brewery, too. Like,
right.
I'm like, well,
good luck.
You didn't do it as well as they did.
Good luck.
Like, yeah.
Many breweries, well, not that I visit that many breweries, but a lot of times I hear from the head brewers, they got into brewing business because they really liked the Belgians.
Yeah.
So some say, I have Ab 12 is one of my favorite beers, and that's why I got into beer to start with. Yeah. And now they make IPAs.
Yeah, right.
So,
right.
Yeah, right.
So, but you asked me before what's up next. So I have to tell you, in 2016, 17, if you would have asked me then, I would have admitted that I thought about, do we as St. Bernardus have to make a beer style like an IPA? And I decided, no, we're not going to do that. And I convinced the owner, Hans, not to do that. But that shows you that the reason that I say this is that I want to explain to you that we're always thinking about the future. What can come? What can bring? What's going on? So
I think that's a astute thing.
A new beer style that's doing really well is always interesting to me to take a look at. Either it's a strong blonde. I don't know if you know what I mean by strong blonde. Above triple, or it is low ABV, like no, and A. Those are awesome things that I'm looking at. I'm not saying that we're going to do them, but at least beware of what's going on in the world, because if you don't do new things, then we wouldn't have St. Bernardus Wit or Tokyo or Christmas Ale
Okay.
And we did that because we thought it was a good idea, and that's how we will come to new beers in the future as well. But nothing decided yet.
So no s'mores, birthday cake, imperial stout, aged on maple syrup and lactose.
Yeah.
Darn it! I was really hoping for another one of them.
You really get the yeast character.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So I think there's other breweries who can do funky stuff and crazy stuff like that. And
Good.
We don't have to do it. But if anybody has a good idea of what St. Bernardus should make,
It's probably you.
No. Please tell me.
Okay.
No, I don't know. I
think you should collaborate with Was Brewing. Make 7 barrels of Saison in Chicago.
Right.
Yeah, collaborations. That's another thing. We never ever we didn't do them yet.
Well, when you want to collaborate in a brewery that has no drains and has to forklift their tanks around and they have enough space, then you come see us make a Saison with
rustic.
me. Yeah, it's very rustic.
It's very rustic.
It's an urban rustic environment.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Maybe we'll see.
Well, hey,
That was very Belgian of you. We'll see. Maybe.
for people out there, we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. Thank you for sending the letters and the emails, electronic letters. So feel free to send any ideas that you think would fit in the St. Bernardus portfolio. So you can send it to insiders@craftbeertemple.com. It's all in the show notes. You can look at that or our mailing address.
Cool.
And we'll see what they come
We'll
up
forward
with.
them to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you going to filter that?
No.
No,
Just,
unfiltered.
No,
Unfiltered.
straight, unread, just straight to you.
Yeah, we're not even going to read them. We're just going to, unpasteurized.
Yeah.
If a letter comes in, we'll just put it in another envelope, not even open it and send.
Yeah.
No. Is there anything else you would like to say? Have we missed anything? I think it's pretty complete.
I think we talked about a lot.
I think so.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything that you would like to say in closing?
Thanks
Mike?
for coming on and talking to us.
Yeah, thank you.
This has been great.
Maybe a big shout out to those fans who remember Anthony.
Yes.
Last time.
Yes,
Anthony
Norcus.
Norcus. His 3 years ago, almost to the day, he passed away, and so want to I'm back here. After all these years, last time in 2017 on the road with him.
Yes.
And I miss him.
Yes.
We all do.
I'm sure. Yes, and I'm sure he's up there smiling and enjoying listening to you.
I think he's having a Christmas sale early.
Probably.
He doesn't mind.
They have Christmas sale year round up there.
Exactly. Every day is Christmas. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We will be back next week with an episode of some kind. But thank you to Alex for setting this whole thing up, and Marcos, thank you very much. It's been great to see you.
Thanks a lot. It was great.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
You brought some great beers to the table.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for that.
All right.
Thank you for that.
All right, guys. So long.
Bye.
Later.
Oh, wait. And told you it was going to happen.
This is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard, seen from again.